Okay, hello, greetings, and welcome everyone. We're back at the retreat again. Now, a follow-up video on the fake Tai Chi Masters video I did a couple of weeks ago. There's been a lot of positive, 97+% likes on that video, over 4,000 views, so it was very popular. And there was some negativity as well. Some people got very angry about it, and I found this very interesting. It touched a nerve on some people. So I'm going to sort of divulge a little bit of personal stuff of why I made that video, and go a little bit into history about myself, how I developed my perceptions of what I do, and so forth. It'll help understand and answer those questions for those people who got a negative response to that video. Okay, so I've been involved in martial arts since I was a child, elementary school, and I started to have metaphysical experiences from about the age of 8-9 years old, and it amplified in my teens. So seeing spirits was very normal for me when I was young, and that was a very difficult time. And this is what drove me to look into the internal martial arts and get to understand those systems. My first focus was on Buddhism, because I was hoping that would give me the answers I was looking for. And then from my investigation of Buddhism, I eventually found Hermetics, my Hermetics teacher. Now, when I started Hermetics with William Cook Edwards, I was kind of torn between taking the approach of my teacher taught us a sacred thing of communing with divinity. That's what Hermetics was for. Well, the martial arts was for training the spirit, honing technique, stress and pressure testing, and I sort of brought up in a sparring environment. And so I believed martial artists are people who continually stress test themselves and test themselves against other people's skill to improve what they're doing. So I had two opposite paths forming at the same time. And in the end, the Hermetic path won out. 2004, I retired from martial training and went, okay, I'm going to release this concept of being a martial artist and move towards the identity of being a meditator and making my life focused on meditation. Now, as I made this transition, it took several years, to let go of that identity. I was addicted to watching UFC videos and shadow boxing and getting a sense of what are they doing and how do I neutralize this, and finding as many people in BJJ and MMA as possible to interact with to get these immunities to what they're doing. And I eventually managed to let go of my whole martial path to being in the meditation path because they were, for me, too contradictory. Now, Japanese martial artists who are very much into the whole Zen approach, they found a much better balance than I did between the two, but I never got there. So I just, as my body started to break down and I was having back problems, so I couldn't really perform as the martial artist I wanted to, and having children, having a child, it encouraged me to went, okay, if I'm a meditator, I'll be a better dad. And so I moved in that direction. So the martial arts path, I don't teach that in any of my workshops. So there was a comment from someone, oh yeah, you go and do a 10-day workshop with Sifu Mark and you come out a warrior. No, you won't. My workshops are designed to understand the body mechanics, the energetics, and the psychology of Qigong internal energy development. I consider myself a professor in that area. That's what I'm actually good at. I've dedicated over 40 years to looking at the internals. Ever since my teenage years, I've been trying to solve these problems and put a lot of hours, practice, and thinking into that whole development process. So when it comes to people being critical who don't understand those principles, they're essentially in kindergarten. When someone in kindergarten criticizes a professor, it's sort of like water off a duck's back. They don't really worry about it. So when people are critical, I don't bite. I'm just like, so what? Now, I reverted back to my kindergarten when someone sent me a video of a famous Tai Chi master denigrating me on his video. And someone who was in that class said, he is talking about Sifu Mark, but they took his name out of the video and just left the denigration component there. So at first, I didn't look at the video. But then the person who sent it to me said, are you going to reply to this? And so I looked at the video, and as soon as I saw this famous Tai Chi master who's setting himself up as an authority, and I went, this guy's been brought up in a safe space. He's never been stress tested. He's not a martial artist, but he's establishing himself as an authority for Tai Chi. So what this basically means, everything that comes out of his mouth and the feel of what he gives people will be fake. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you take a person who's stress tested everything they learn, under pressure, sparring environment, highly competitive environment. Their spirit is honed, their internal energetics is honed. They have a deep sense of knowing of what works and what doesn't. That person demonstrates the drill and gives it to people. It's real. He's tested it. Now, if a person takes that same drill and they demonstrate it with a highly cooperative partner and has been stress tested, exactly the same drill, it's fake. Why? Because it doesn't have the spirit, the power, the body consciousness of evolution that a person goes through for stress testing. The two can look identical. But one is fake, one is real. The person who is continually stress testing what they do and refining it can teach the same information with different type of spirit behind it. And this particular character got under my skin and went, he's a safe spacer. He's never been stress tested. He looked like he's never been in a fight. He hasn't done any sparring. He's teaching a fake form of Tai Chi. Now, for people who are just enjoying safe space Tai Chi for health, nothing wrong with that. It's safe. But they don't call themselves martial artists, and they don't call themselves masters of martial arts. This particular person was doing the wrong thing to the community. He's outright lying to people. And, I don't blame him, because you don't know what you don't know. If you've been brought up in a safe space, you think that's what it is, and that's what you're teaching, and you're a master of safe space. So these people don't actually know that they're not martial artists, but they believe they are. And this is a problem. So when I made that video, I wanted to get people to feel incited and feel angry and feel like they need to change themselves to be a real martial artist, if that's what they wanted, or just enjoy the healthy aspect of Tai Chi in the safe space. But what's most important is you know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it, not to be delusional about it. So that's the first reason I made that video. So a little bit of revision. My workshops are metaphysics workshops, how the laws of metaphysics apply to internal martial arts and hermetic work and the higher aspects of practice. That's what interests me. For me, I train Kabbalah. Essentially, that's over 90% of my practice is Kabbalistic work. And that's what I enjoy. I'm not a martial artist anymore. I surrendered that a long time ago, and I don't teach it. And this is why at pretty much every workshop where people come in that's on the elastic force or the intrinsic energies, say, go find an MMA school, a judo club, someplace where it's competitive and you can stress test everything you're learning so that it's real. If you're only working with cooperative training partners, it's not real. So every video I make, it's at a workshop where someone's cooperating with me. And I know that, and the person knows that, and you know that. So you understand the situation under which I'm making those videos and demonstrating what I'm doing. And I want you to protect yourself from working with highly cooperative partners by stress testing everything you're doing. Now, I did this for a very long time, so I know the difference between working with a cooperative partner, teacher-student relationship, and a competitive partner. One requires a lot more skill, and that's what makes you good at these things. Okay, so the next aspect of it, 97% of the people who watched the video clicked like, over 97%, and a few people clicked dislike. Now, those people who clicked the dislike button, it hit a nerve. And that's what I was actually aiming for. I was aiming for people to question themselves and question their path. How are they training? What are their objectives? Are they in a safe space, or are they being pressure tested all the time? Highly competitive Tai Chi schools usually restrict their stress testing to free push hands, and that's a start, as long as you don't do too much of it, because it does tend to corrupt the nature of the exercises. It becomes too wrestly, but you should be able to throw on wrestlers once you catch the true principles. So this is important to understand, that when you're engaging in this applying spiritual work, metaphysics, into the martial path, the outcomes are going to be very, very different. You need 10 times more skill than working with a cooperative person. So recognize that straight off the bat. So what I suggest, go to an MMA school. And it's got to be a school in which you are protected. Remember that when you're stress testing, there's a threat of violence. And if that threat of violence, if you're not adapting to that stress intelligently in a safe environment, then you aren't going to get very far, because you can be injured all the time. So poor teachers have injured students, and they have a lot of a lack of attendance due to injury. Very intelligent teachers look at the stresses that are safe and pull people back when they're getting out of control, getting too wild, and then let people be more wild when it's safer to do so. And you've got to find a place in which you can stress test yourself appropriately, refine your techniques. Now, usually you'll find 2-3 training partners who are very good at this, where you synchronize with them, you understand them, and you can pressure each other without injury. And this is the usual thing. These are the people you catch up with on the weekends to train with, and outside of normal class time you'll hang out, and they're sort of like Kung Fu brothers. And once you've established that, then it's a matter of, okay, how do I get the greatest value out of this relationship? How do I get the most out of this? All right, so, okay, next aspect and follow up on that video is journaling. A lot of martial artists fail to journal. If you're on that martial path, every class you've got to write down, what did I learn today? What did I learn about the physical techniques, about my body, limitations of my body, your speed, your power, and then write out a solution. How do I increase the speed? How do I increase the power? How do I improve the technique? How do I improve my timing? Think it out. This 10-15 minutes of journaling at the end of each day, followed by a little bit of contemplation, will pay 10 times dividend in your growth rate. You'll be the best person in the class, not because you're the most talented, because you put your energy in the right place in the most efficient way. So, journal exactly what your physical experiences are. Now, if you're an internalist, how do you apply the internal principles? You have to journal where you're getting it right and where you're failing. And it's usually contraction of the mind and too much pressure at the point of contact. You have to swing the point of contact, relax and open up the mental space in order for these types of internal principles to function. So let's go over it a bit. Journaling the physicality. I like to break it into the elements: fire, air, water, earth. When I'm journaling, the journaling itself is an air aspect of the intellect. It relates to timing and speed aspects of training. Do you need to be faster? Fire, power, structure, strength. How well can you put it together and make it happen? Water, flow, an aspect of timing. How well do you flow in synchronicity with your partner? And the earth element is an aspect of the fire, of that structure and putting it all together, and the way the air, the fire and the water synchronize into earth and bring the whole picture as one. So this 4-element psychology, you apply it to the physical, then you apply it to the astral, the emotional. When do you lose emotional center? Someone pushes you hard enough you get angry at yourself for breaking. You get angry at yourself for not having done better. There's an emotional break in your sense of feeling. And sometimes you get hit because of the emotions. Other times you get emotional because you got hit. So it could be a physical timing problem. And emotionally, you don't cope with failure very well. So you define your black and white mirror very much in relation to your martial experience, not necessarily in your daily life as much, but in the training room. It is that personality which is sparring and fighting, competing and developing, refining the spirit. That's where you have to know yourself. If you're training internal principles, then you're going to be integrating them elementally into it. Then we look at the mind itself, the mental body. We have the aspect of mindfulness to separate the observing part of your mind from the intending part of your mind. Air, the observer; fire, the intender. How much can you unify and identify with your training partner, the person you're sparring with, and unify with them to control them? How connected are you to that person? Then in the earth principle, how does all that come together to relax and control them with your mind by separating the observer, the intender, and the unification with you and the opposition, who you become one with. So you cease to be opposition. So that's psychology, 4 bases of power, the quadrupolar magnet and hermetics. You journal that and you refine the mental, you refine the astral, and you refine the physical every day. But if you don't journal it, you can't see what needs refining. So if you're a martial artist and you're always stress testing yourself to improve, this psychological framework will give you something to improve every day. Now, my advice to students when I was teaching martial arts is every night when you go to bed, visualize what you learned and visualize yourself doing it perfectly. Make improvements in your physical state, in your imagination. Make improvements in your emotional state, in your imagination. Make improvements in your mindset, your mindfulness of what you're doing in your imagination, and take that into sleep. And you do that every night. And what I found is people who are very good at the journaling process and the imagination exercises moving into sleep will grow at a much, much faster pace. So if I'd go in a class, say, okay, who did their visualization exercises before sleep last night? And people would put their hands up. Those people are almost always the best in the class. For that reason, high quality journaling, high quality self-image. Okay, so the next aspect of the martial, following up on the martial path, is metrics of development, measuring. You always got to be measuring your improvements. Where am I improving and where am I not improving, and why aren't I improving those areas? So by having these measurements in place, you can make high quality adjustments within your mental, astral, physical body to improve. So you need some sort of graph of getting faster, of getting stronger, of getting better timing, of getting better technical clarity, and so forth. If you have these in place, then you're going to do exceptionally well. All right, so anyway, I hope this sort of helps with that follow-up. And people who were offended, I apologize to some of you. And I'm very happy that the others who were offended actually learned some of it. Great. If I hit a nerve, there's good reason why that nerve, and you just learned something about your astral self, about your physical state, and you benefit from it. Even if you hit that dislike button, you actually got improvement if you stood back and took a look at yourself afterwards. All right, thanks for listening, everyone, and take care of yourself, and see you on the next video.